Really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. I trust that today is a fantastic Friday for you. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Let's start things out with some open line, 1 o'clock. A special treat for all of us as we invite you to be a part of that discussion between now and then. Hey, you got something to share? Share with us. We want to hear. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. It is Friday, and as we look forward to the weekend, I hope that you have some time to spend with your family to relax and unwind and enjoy all that Cayman has to offer. Get prepared for what a week unfolds as we go into the weekend. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-32621. It's open line at 1 o'clock. Got something for us as we look at the country and maybe get a perspective. I'm interested in hearing what's going to be shared. Had a couple of, I guess, in a sense, fast-paced meetings earlier with some individuals who were sharing their concerns about our country. And first and foremost, they were talking about the whole idea that here we've had the CPA conference, and it's good to have the visiting dignitaries, the different prime ministers and premiers and all of the political leaders who are here interacting with our own. So our newly elected politicians get a chance to not just interact with their own veterans, but those who are from similar jurisdictions and cut from the same cloth, as it were. But equally, a few in a meeting earlier shared the view that Cayman has always been different and distinct. Now, is this an opportunity for us to step up and lead the pack? Is it a case that if we step aside and outside the pack, will we succumb to what some have shared when it comes to this idea of divide and conquer? Is this a case where there's strength in unity? Or is it a case that it would be better if we were, sort of sailing our own canoe? Now, mixed views shared with us earlier. What is your perspective? Part of that is that one individual, and as I said to him, I'll do my very best to try to relay. Now, he was catching a flight, so he said he knew I had some open line and would have been almost encouraged to come on board and share. But he shared that this whole discussion with the UK is, unfortunately, from our perspective, he thinks we're being confused and linking them all together. There were three sort of primary and distinct things. First, the idea of beneficial ownership. The second thing was this idea of a chance to advance our constitution. And then the third is the idea that the UK now is moving forward with changing its own immigration legislation to affect all of the overseas territories. He thought that when it comes to the beneficial ownership, we don't necessarily need to move forward with the sense of haste that some have cautioned. And he has shared that when we think of it, maybe we need to understand that as interconnected as we think they are very separate in many senses. The beneficial ownership may not affect us to the same extent as it may affect, for instance, the BVI. The constitutional arrangement and the constitution that BVI in Bermuda has is certainly more advanced than the one that we have. So could we use them as an example in order to advance our own? Now, the third one in relation to immigration proposals, as the UK seems to want to change its own domestic legislation to affect its overseas territories, maybe that is something that we could work together. Now, he says that he understands in the world of politics that there's much compromise, and as they give and take, sometimes you can't just cherry pick. It may be that we end up linking them all together in order to get some semblance of a cooperative approach. But he thought that that was the one thing that all of the overseas territories need to work together, from the perspective that it would be where the UK is trying to legislate directly for the overseas territories through amending its own immigration legislation. Now, you may be better informed, you may actually not agree with it, but I certainly would be interested to hear your perspective. 949-8037, 949-8037, or if you can and wish and prefer, certainly we invite you. Flo makes it a toll-free call, 1-800-534-8255. And of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. It will be open line until 1 o'clock. The beneficial ownership. He says that for the most part, from what he can gather, is that the overseas territories, and just focusing on them specifically, the legislation is quite robust from the perspective that there is a great sense of cooperation with the UK and other respected authorities, whether it's for tax or criminal behavior, and the information that they seek is sometimes within the hour, certainly within the day, is provided. Not as it were decades ago in this infancy of such legislation where things could go through the courts and it could be drawn out for a while. Now it's almost immediate. He says that as he understands it, there was an incredible amount of expenditure, and in many cases at the direct expense of the respective governments, to put in place the infrastructure that allows the electronic retrieval of the information that was sought. Now, we thought that when we think of this issue, maybe if Cayman understands its own environment, it may understand that, the percentage of people and clients and the business that will be affected is X. That may be less than, again, he's only using the BVI as an example, than what is in the BVI. He said, for instance, what if Cayman's affected percentage is only 10% or 5% compared to the BVI? Maybe it's 50% or 90%. Well, they would have more at stake. Not that we should throw them out to pasture on their own, but again, are we able to position ourselves much better? The constitutional view is that the UK obviously has, through its amending legislation, allowed Bermuda and now the BVI to have a much more advanced constitution. Why are we failing and woefully lagging behind? And then finally, of course, as he repeated, the idea of the immigration. We're going to pause and take our first break. We invite you to be a part of a discussion. It's going to be open line. You can call and share your thoughts with us, 949-8037. Or you can toll free, if you prefer, call us on that line, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can share some thoughts on the WhatsApp, 925-3261. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
South Coast Bar and Grill up in Breakers, man, that is the place. For traditional Cayman cuisine, oh, you will love the taste. At South Coast Bar and Grill, we got conch and lobster and turtle stew. And every Sunday, come out with your family for the barbecue.
Join us for Father's Day lunch and dinner from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. On the menu will be Cayman lobster, stew turtle, fried crab, stew elk, stew conch, grilled grouper, local stew beef, and barbecue chicken.
Cuisine, the talk today is South Coast Bar and Grill.
King Sports Center's Art of Fun Summer Camp is back from July 3rd to August 3rd. Now in its 14th year, the Art of Fun Camp is ideal for kids aged 5 through 10 with activities from football, basketball, dodgeball, squash, rock climbing, arts and craft, dance, singing, and more. Your child can stay cool while having fun in a safe and secure environment. For more info, email kings.brebanks@gmail.com. That's kings.brebanks@gmail.com or call 946-KING, like King's Sports Center on Facebook, and you can also find them on Instagram or call 946-5464. King's Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Satisfy your World Cup cravings at Merengue Town. Now under sole ownership by Mr. Johnny. $15 bucket specials during the game. And after game time, it's party time. With Karaoke Wednesdays, the Friday night party with DJ Bambino. And on Saturday and Sunday, get your sweetness on with DJ Sugar. Enjoy free finger foods and soup. And don't forget about the fried fish specials. Only at Merengue Town. Located in Georgetown on Boilers Road off Walkers Road. Merengue Town. It's time. Feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. It's toll free with the compliments of Flo, or you can call and share your thoughts with us on 949-8037. Now, if you're just joining us, quickly reference to what one individual was sharing. But let me share some of the thoughts from another discussion we had. So Friday, usually the Fridays tend to either be very fast-paced and hectic, or they can be laid back. Well, today was the former. In another discussion I had with someone, he was of the view that it's good that the government looks at legislation to bring about a certain level of ethos and behavior. People say all the time that they can't legislate for morality, but you have to put legislation in place that allows people to understand at the end of the day there's a certain ethos that the society wants to portray, to develop. But he shared that the questions and oftentimes the arguments about lack of enforcement sometimes is only, met by increased legislation. The recent announcements he shared regarding the fines that are being proposed in relation to not having those new electronic license plates, he thought, what is driving that? His view, and he said he had this discussion with some others, whether they were police officers, former or current, whether they were politicians. I did not ask him. I do realize now at the end that I was making an assumption based on what he said, but it was kind of a unfortunate inference on my part. He said that it would seem that push seems to be more important than the idea of maybe tightening up legislation when it comes to, what he thinks much more serious behaviors that cause harm to others, even behaviors that cause people to feel that they can break into other people's homes. Why is it that this one, not having the proper license plate can now result, if the legislation goes through, in a $10,000 fine? Why, in his mind, is pushing that much more important and urgent than looking at some of the other things? He also thought that the inference of the person now being considered to be guilty, as opposed to what should always be the premise, innocent until proven guilty, is that something that we're increasingly getting to. Now, he reminded us that there is legislation in place where people, if they go into the courts and they refuse to, testify, that the judges can make the assumption that this person obviously has something to hide, so therefore must be guilty. I think he said adverse inference. Hopefully that's what he said. Those of you who are lawyers and know more, if that's not correct, please let me know. And he thought that he objected to that way back when, only to sort of be, cried down by some of his colleagues who said, well, you just, behind the times. But he shared that it needs to be, championed, that people must be positioned not, to have the assumption over their heads that they're guilty. Even if they are, let it be on the onus on the government, on the prosecution, to establish that guilt. If not, then what society are we developing? Your view. Now, he shared that the worst thing is not that legislation like this has passed, or in the case of the license plates is being proposed, is the fact that there is no public commentary. He hasn't seen any from the lawyers' associations, from the business community. There are no civic groups. Even the politicians are somewhat mum. He didn't say whether he spoke to one or all of them, but he gave the impression that in passing conversation that a few of the politicians with whom he spoke, whether they are current or former, weren't prepared to engage in that discussion. Now, is it because they accept the legislation? Is it because they haven't paid it much mind? He shared that he didn't want to necessarily unfairly criticize them because we put so much on their plates. But at the end of the day, when and if it goes to the Legislative Assembly, and as expected in the next sitting, it probably will, where will we as a public, be and being informed, and then being able to say to our politicians, well, is this really the best thing to do? Well, what is your thought? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. So we look at a couple of our WhatsApp messages that come through. A few have shared some sentiments that appreciate you taking time to type. Other respect, I can't read them in a format. Partly because, and again, it's just my interpretation, but they could, amount to somewhat of a defamatory statement. Now, just so you know, even if something is harsh and critical, if it's true, then I'm told that's the best defense to defamation. But if it isn't true, and it even sounds nice, well, say it as it is. People can be offended, but if it's true, as they say, tough. But if it's not true, then of course it lands us all in on unnecessary trouble. Where do we draw that line between someone expressing a personal view and an opinion, maybe critical of someone or something or some policy, but at the same time ensuring that it is a responsible, well-intended comment? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can email talktoday@candw.ky, or you can equally send us a WhatsApp 925-3261, and of course you can call us on the toll-free line with the compliments of Flo, 1-800-534-8255. So look at a couple of our email messages that are coming through. A few have made comment on some of the issues here. Let me read them up, put them in a way that I can, share with you. But first, let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
That's fine. Since you seem to have a little time here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's essential, as I've said before, that people understand just what it means for the country to become an independent country.
Yes, sir.
An independent country. It means the management of the affairs of the country would now rest completely, wholly, solely on in your elected cabinet headed by the Prime Minister and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And you rely on ourselves to determine our own destiny. You'd have your own constitution, the symbols, emblems, even an army, and your own passport. Our own passport we'd have. Banking institutions, currencies. Your monies would bear the image of national heroes. You could choose that. And also, you know, our ministers could sign treaties with other countries, and we could join the United Nations, and we'd have a vote equal and so forth to the other countries in the United Nations, and not just talk about going to them and begging them for some reasoning or on our behalf or whatever. Which you'd probably have to go through the United Kingdom anyhow. But there are lots of things that preparations would have to be done. For instance, you think about with the case of Jamaica, and they did a thing in 1957, I think it was in November, when their executive council, they replaced it with what I think it was called a council of ministers, and the chief minister presided over that. And the council of ministers were nominated by him. In other words, they had reduced the powers of the governor there to largely ceremonial. It was their largest ceremonial then. And the thing is, you hear about Jamaica pulling out of the federation and all that. That was something that was an idea encouraged by the UK, and all the countries got together. And the thing with it joining the federation was not supported by Jamaicans at all. The island, much more than half the population of Jamaica were against it, and then Jamaica's population was more than half the rest of the whole Caribbean, but they had less than half the representatives sort of in what was the federal parliament that you had. The complex thing it was, but made up of the different countries. And they pulled out of it, and they had a vote referendum in I think it was in September '61. That they came out of it. And then the premier announced immediately that they would proceed to prepare for an independence. And then they held, naturally, after whole general election, because the government at the time is irrelevant once they're in elections come up. Once you're moved towards independence, your previous government is irrelevant, the constitution is irrelevant, your systems, and even in the top echelons of the civil service would be irrelevant. The major things, collecting taxes, custom duties, etc., license fees on cars, and that would remain the same, and your excise taxes that they collect from the huge manufacturing and mining and sugar industry there and all that. But you've got to remember why they proceeded towards this and all that, you know, because think about it, 1938, I think they had some form of election there, because they had been under direct rule by Great Britain from 1865, really. It was a very complex situation, and it was due to the labor unions being formed. When you think about it, only about 5% of Jamaicans could vote in the 38th election, women and men. Women are allowed to vote from then there. And you had to have at least an income of, I think it was 50 or 60 pounds per annum. So it meant that only 5% or so could vote. So you moved away from all this. It was a long road to deciding. But when you think of these things, you can understand why they went independent. There was no choice for them. Mm-hmm. No choice to remain in a system that was so unequal and so against the majority of their people. There's lots more I could say about this. And anyway, so they voted to come out of the Federation, immediately announced that they were going to, prepare for independence. And then when they had elections, Mr. Manley and his Labour Party won. So he became the first Prime Minister. That was in April. And then in August, they moved to the independence. So we would have to prepare for at least 5. That's why Bermuda, you mentioned about your constitution. I don't know if you can still hear me.
No, very much so. I'm listening.
I'm just telling you this real quickly now, because I know you have other people and you don't want.
No, that's fine. No, just take it down. That's fine, sir.
Bermuda did something similar. What they call a pre-independence constitution. I think it was 45 or 50 years ago or something like that. When they did the same 5-year thing, obviously they had followed up Jamaica in all its aspects of these things. And the others did the same thing, I believe, through Trinidad and Barbados. That's a 5-year preparation. And of a pre-independence constitution. Jamaica went through his years. But I think Bermuda did not. But it is a very advanced constitution compared to the autonomy it gives them compared to ours. So they never did go independent, you see. So it was a pre-independence thing. That's why we talk about our constitution. And there has been talk, and I read something that the lady said when she was Minister for the Territories, that there would not be another Bermuda. You'd have to go independent. Try to tell Great Britain, well, you're going independent. It wasn't in those exact words, but that's what she meant, or that's what, whether she was quoting someone else or not, I don't know, or whether the paper quoted her wrong, but that's what it said. Anyhow, it just shows you the preparation, and you see where there's disagreement amongst even the financial experts about just how this would affect us, this open register thing and all that, because there is no consensus on anything when it comes to, the power that the financial system has in any country.
Yes,
the controls are with the money. So you'll have disagreements over just how much it would affect, how much it would not affect. And you have to look at things from both sides, from Great Britain's point of view, who is the colonial power here, and then you have to look at it from our point of view for survival for the financial industry. If we say it's almost eliminating, I haven't heard anybody talk about Switzerland, which I think was the number one in the world with this, whether they're concerned with something like this or they're not concerned. I don't know. I don't hear them talking about it. But I just like to show people there are a lot of things you'd have to do to prepare, because a totally different system of government. The Constitution would be irrelevant, and many things would be irrelevant immediately that are of very important aspects of governance would no longer be the same. It can't be the same when you're independent. The elected members have much more power. They actually can
yes,
dip into the courts and make sure that judges are abiding by how they want the Constitution to be interpreted and how the law should be followed that they make. And senior civil servants would have to listen to what their agenda is of the ruling government and so forth. And the ministers have a lot of power. That's what we want. That
yes,
the people's representatives truly run the country. That is what independence in its most important facilities or most important aspect of it is that the people really have the power through their elected representatives to conduct our own affairs.
Right. Well, that's the challenge I just shared. Hey, thank you very, very much, sir, for sharing that with us. We're going to pause and take our break. When we come back, join us, because we're going to bring you something that I think you're going to enjoy, you're going to learn, and you're going to recognize. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Kia Soul passes it to Kia Sportage. Sportage makes a stylish move over to the sleek Optima. Optima then flicks it across to the 7-seat Sorento. Sorento heads it. Goal! Kia!
It's time to score with the entire 2018 Kia lineup at GT Motors. Get up to $3,000 cash back. The first 50 customers will score a World Cup replica football and mascot. Hurry, it's the best thing that's happened to car buyers all year. The 2018 Kia clearance sale, only at GT Motors on Godfrey Nixon Way. Kia, driving football fever.
Accidents can happen at any time and can leave a strain on you and your family. Be prepared with Workman's Compensation Insurance from Fidelity Insurance. Our brokers can help you meet your government requirements and ensure that you are covered should an accident happen. Don't leave it to chance. Email Fidelity Insurance at insure@fidelitykman.com for a free quote. Get workman's compensation from Fidelity Insurance and get some peace of mind. Fidelity, we're good for you.
The Empowered Woman. Performance-driven, strong-spirited. You need a ride to match your drive. Whether boss by day or mom by night, with lots of legroom and space for sports gear and other things. The new Ford Ecosport is built for you, and it's now on sale for only $22,000, saving you $2,900 off during That Motors summer sale. Stop by That Motors, where you can also save $3,000 off the new Ford Ranger XLT double cab truck. Just two of the many great deals going on now at That Motors on Walker's Road.
Radio Cayman Super Jam Show.
Tune in every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. for
Radio Cayman Super Jam Show,
the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Showdown.
Love you like a fresh vegetable.
The Georgetown Farmers Market, offering the freshest in local produce, preserves, and crafts.
Be proud to be Caymanian. Shop local at the Georgetown Farmers Market today.
Celebrate Cayman. Bring you the Summer Festival. Saturday, June 23rd from 4 p.m. until midnight along the Georgetown Harborfront. Radio Cayman will be bringing you live coverage of the festivities starting at 4 p.m. The Celebrate Cayman Summer Festival. Saturday, June 23rd. Admission is free.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us and in the studio. If Ray Banker doesn't mind me sharing this, not to talk about the school. We're prepping up our stuff and we're going through things, and I learn a lot from Ray. But there's a young gentleman that I think I learn even more from sometimes, Mr. Ebanks. Thank you, sir, for not just your time and your presence today, but I believe what this country is going to be able to appreciate as we get a chance to share. Now, Mr. Loxley, I know a quick little change given the hour and the minutes before the top of the hour. But before we get to what we have planned, let's set the stage for what we're going to do. Mr. Victor and family, would you do the honors and introduce everybody?
You already introduced him?
No. Well, I've introduced them myself.
Well, that's the guy to take care of yourself.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
In the studio today, and Dwayne mentioned that, coming up on the news here in about 6 minutes, and we had a 13-minute clip that we wanted to play for you, which we'll hear after the news, but we'll try to set it up the best we can. Victor Ebanks. Say hello to the folks, Vic.
Hello, everybody.
And his son, Palmer. Palmer, say hello.
Hello.
To your cousins out there. And Vanessa.
Hello.
Victor left here in 1947 on the Antares. Mm-hmm. He's been back a few times to Cayman over the years. But the old saying say, you can take the man out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the man. So he has returned here now with, I think, just about, I would guess it would be 75% of his family. One of the children could not come, I understand.
That's right. Correct.
And he wanted to bring them out here to Cayman to get them soaked in with a little bit of this Cayman kind and so they could sort of find out who their cousins was or is, because there's still a lot of them alive. And Victor had a very beautiful career, I'd have to say. He's now 85, Vic.
That's
or
right.
You didn't want to tell your age.
Yeah, that's right.
He told me 34.
You're there.
But he grew up in West Bay, right in Henning Square. That's what it was called in West Bay. His house was directly across from Alfresco's, and if you stood at Alfresco's restaurant and looked directly north, I guess it would sort of be northeast, the property on the left-hand side, which borders on that would be Powell Smith Drive, was their homestead, and in fact it was a big homestead there. In fact, there was a grass piece in front of it, right, Vic?
Oh yeah, that's where we raised our cows.
Yes, they kept cows in front of the house there.
Wow. That's where we got our milk.
Yes. And they had, I think, probably one of the most producing avocado trees in the district. right on the boundary of Powell Smith Drive. You know that?
Yeah, you're right.
Your brother Larry always talked about that.
Yeah.
I think your parents used to say, you keep an eye on those avocados because people,
That's right.
And they said, take what you want, but don't, just don't destroy it, And so, but to give you a little background of Victor's ancestry, he is the great-grandson of John Hooper Henning. John Hooper Henning came to the Cayman Islands on a turtling boat. He had got shipwrecked around Cuba in the early part of the 18th century, and he made his way out to Cayman, found a love, got married, had, I think, 6 sons and 1 daughter. And Victor's grandfather, Sterling Ebanks, or Sterling Henning, you kind of get it mixed up, Sterling Henning was the son of John Hooper Henning. And the whole area, just about, you can see Henning Lane in West Bay, that whole area down in the back there was Henning Square. And the Henning Cemetery is right on the corner of Powell Smith Drive and West Bay Road. And all the beach, actually from, I believe you could say, where Tony's Fish Market there is, or Tony's, not Fish Market, Tony's...
museum?
Oh, yeah, Fish House and museum. 75% of the beach area, from that area down to where the dock is at, where I grew up, where our house was at on the beach there, was Henning Beach. Now, over the years, it's got... through the families, because Hooper split it up amongst his sons, and there's actually only one piece left in the whole stretch there. There's probably 1 or 2 little pieces that's still in the Henning periphery family, but there's one piece left there that was left by Hooper's son Samuel, to never leave the family control, the Henning family control, before 100 years after eternity. So it stays within the family, the Henning family sphere, or combine, or whatever you want to call it. It seems we're getting up to news time, but. That is a basic, little basic background. Victor was a championship marble player in Florida. Now, you're going to have to, and the clip that you're going to hear after the news, we'll sort of set this out a little in proper context. But Vic, I think you went to state championship?
Yes, in Tampa.
Yeah. Now, he played a lot of marbles right there in front of Alfresco's restaurant on the Mar Road.
Right,
knuckling iron knockers, and,
that's right.
And
that was the game.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's so much history about Caymanians that we don't really talk enough about, and to expose it so that those coming behind us will know. Caymanians, smart people, they were ingenious, and they could make their way around anywhere. And I'm not sure you want to take news now, because
yes, sir. And you see Susan jumping up and that's just good. So that is just a preview of what we're going to enjoy. We certainly open the phone lines up, but we want you to learn, listen, love, and laugh with us, because it's going to be not just a trip down memory lane, but an appreciation for the resolve, the resilience, the ingeniousness that Mr. Loxley talks about. Really, really appreciate this chance to learn more from Mr. Victor. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
19 debaters from 9 countries around the region are in Cayman for the Regional Youth Parliament. It's part of the 43rd Annual Conference of the Caribbean, the Americas, and the Atlantic Regional of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association taking place this week. The mood seeks to affirm UK's Brexit decision. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Venezuelan security forces have carried out hundreds of arbitrary killings under the guise of fighting crime. That's what the UN's Human Rights Body says. In a report, it cites shocking accounts of young men being killed during operations, often in poor districts, over the past 3 years. Venezuela has in the past dismissed human rights allegations as lies. U.S. fashion designer Kate Spade has been laid to rest in her hometown of Kansas City, Missouri, 16 days after her death by suicide. Less than a day before the funeral, her 89-year-old father died in the same city. He had been in bad health and was heartbroken over the recent death of his beloved daughter. And dramatic late strikes by Felipe Coutinho and Neymar have given Brazil its first win of the World Cup against Costa Rica in St. Petersburg and broken Central Americans' hearts by sending them out of the tournament. The result leaves the 5-time world champions with 4 points from 2 games after they drew 1-1 with Switzerland in their opening match. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. And if you just joined us, we have a special clip that we want to share with you. In the studio, really I'm grateful always to Mr. Loxley Banks and the different hats he wears, but especially for connecting us up to our history and giving us an appreciation of the resolve and resilience and hopefully the hopeful expectation of what the future would like as we speak to Mr. Victor Ebanks and his family name. Mr. Doctor, this clip, before we go to it, you want to set it up for us?
Yeah, well, this clip...
Yeah, you go right here. Yeah.
Is an excerpt from an interview that I did with Victor 1979, I believe it was, some 40 years ago in Miami. And at that time he was a bustling, bristling businessman around the Miami area there in South Florida. And I did this clip actually at his home down in Southwest Miami. So the excerpt is self-explanatory. So Susan, now if we can go to that. It was aired here on Radio Cayman once or twice before on a CI Retro program, and we might have repeated it sometime else within the last 40 years. But anyway, let's go to the clip right now.
This is Radio Cayman CI Retro, bringing Cayman Islands history alive. On this, the 5th program in the 6-program series of Cayman Islands CI Retro, we've been featuring short talks with 4 Caymanians, speaking about their travels, their hobbies, and aspects of their lives and careers. Our last talk for this program features Victor Ebanks, the great-grandson of John Hooper Henning, who was shipwrecked in waters around Cuba in the early 18th century and found his way to Grand Cayman, settled in, got married, had 6 sons and 1 daughter, received a grant from the Crown for a major portion of the West Bay beach, known as Henning Beach. The following recording is from the late 1970s Radio Cayman program series, Caymanians in Action. Let's listen.
This evening on Caymanians in Action, we're in Miami with our action personality, Victor Ebanks. Victor is a Caymanian by birth who grew up in the West Bay area and received most of his early education in the Cayman Islands. He is currently a builder in Florida and a bank director, and previously owned his own mortgage company and was the vice president of a Miami bank. Victor, welcome to Caymanians in Action.
Thank you, Loxley. It's a real pleasure, and I'm real pleased to have the opportunity to see you again and talk to you. I really enjoy you coming by to visit me and my family, my 3 kids. Last time I saw you, I think I only had 1, so now I have 3, and I really enjoy the opportunity to be able to share my experiences with you and my fellow Caymanians.
Well, Victor, tell us a little bit about what happened after you left the Cayman Islands.
Well, as you may recall, my mother and my 2 sisters, we left the islands back in '48, and I think we traveled on the motorboat. I believe the name was Antares, and that took about 14 days. Gosh, we were real seasick, and we practically died on our way over to Tampa. But we finally made it, and we lived in Tampa. And since that time, we've since moved to Miami. But I was educated in Tampa. I went to junior high school and high school in Tampa. After high school, I went into the service for 2 years, and then upon completion of the service, I attended Florida State University. And then I began working in the bank. And I've had a banking career basically since then.
Now, I believe at one time you were the vice president of a bank here in Miami.
That's right, Loxley. I started in the banking business in '58, and I left in '69, but during that period of time I worked up to be a vice president of 2 different banks, and I also attended banking school for 3 years at the University of Virginia, and I soon discovered I couldn't make any money in the banking business, so in '69 I left the banking business and formed my own mortgage company along with 2 other people, and in '73 we sold a mortgage company to a bank holding company out of Indiana.
Could you let us in on how much you sold that mortgage company for?
Well, actually, it was a fantastic story. We started out with $25,000, and we sold it some 4 years later for better than $6 million.
So that's a real Caymanian in Action story.
Well, it was a fortunate thing. We did everything right. We were in at the right economic period. The money rates were good, and we went public and sold a lot of stock, and things just seemed to work out just fine for us. We were very fortunate.
After you sold your mortgage company, what did you do then?
Well, by this time, of course, I was married. My wife was pregnant and having a second child, and I took it easy for about a year and a half. And then in '75, I invested in the banking business, and also invested some money in 2 apartment complexes, and bought some other real estate, and then also got into the building business. I got into the building business with an old friend from Tampa, which is an interesting story because he has a lot of relatives from Cayman. His name is Hyde, and he's from Honduras, but he goes to Cayman occasionally, and he has some close friends there. But since then, we've gone into banking business to a greater extent, and of course we're also building a lot more homes and other complexes.
Now, with your building company, how many homes do you think you will sell in 1979?
Well, we don't have a dollar figure goal or a number figure that we hope to achieve, but we should be up in the $3 to $5 million range during this current fiscal year. That's in total sales. Of course, the profit is substantially less.
Now, Vic, I remember when you were in the Cayman Islands, before you moved here to Florida with your family, you were a super marble champion. Did you do any of that after you came to Florida?
Yes, Loxley. When I first came to Tampa, one of the first experiences I had was participating in a marble tournament sponsored by the Boys Club of America. Now, that tournament was held in Cuscaden Park, and it was there that I met a lot of my good friends, some fellows that are still good friends today. I won that area tournament, won the city championship, won the state, and represented the area in the national championship. It was quite an experience for me, especially having to play against these southern boys and me being a foreigner as such.
So that experience that you got back there knuckling on those mild roads really came in handy.
Oh, yeah, it sure did, Locks.
And Vic, you mentioned earlier that you spent some time in the Army. Did you spend any time overseas?
Yes, Loxley. I took my basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then they sent me to leadership school, which was an infantry school in Denver, Colorado, and it was there that I was to train for Korea. That was during the Korean War back in early 50s. But during the period of time that I was there, the war ended, and instead of going to Korea, I was sent to Japan, and I spent about a year in Japan. Then I returned and was discharged.
Vic, can you recall a little bit about living in the Cayman Islands back when you were growing up?
Yes, Loxley, I can recall a few things that really stood out in my mind and still stand out in my life as a way of shaping my future, I guess. I remember distinctly the many times that I had nothing to do at night and we would play, or we call it down here hide and seek. I guess out there they call it hide and ghoul, I believe is what the name is. And we'd hide in trees and climb trees and pelt rocks at people, and then we'd go down to the beach at night and fish, and just a lot of things just to keep us occupied, to keep out of trouble. And I think that made me appreciate more the things that I've been able to do since then.
Vic, tell us a little bit about your school days back in the Cayman Islands.
Well, Loxley, you know, I left there when I was about 13, so I did not spend a lot of time in school there. But I went to grammar school at some school in West Bay. I think it was Miss Izzy, and went there several years. And then I went to a school in Georgetown for a year. I believe that was owned by the Arches. And shortly thereafter, we moved to the States.
What was it like, an island boy coming to the States and going into the school system here?
Well, it was quite an experience. I had trouble adjusting the first year, a lot of trouble adjusting. I had to work a lot harder. I found out that I was really behind in some subjects, but I was ahead in others. After the adjustment period, I was able to catch on and things worked out fine for me.
Having a company that's doing $5 million worth of business a year in Florida, Vic, what really do you have to do to control this?
Well, Loxley, I've found out long ago that in management, people make the difference. And that's an old slogan, but it's the truth. And people make the difference in management. So living here in Miami and doing most of my business in Tampa, where I only spend 2 or 3 days a week, I have to have good people working for me. Now, it is important that I have a superintendent of construction that is reliable, honest, trustworthy, and competent. And I have such a person. He's been with me for almost 3 years. And my sales manager fits the same description. And the people I have in the office are equally as competent. I find out that it's better in the long run if you compensate them well, give them some authority, let them function as people, and let them know they're trusted and you believe in them, and they'll perform as well as you can expect. And also, you know, I'm also on the board of directors of a bank. The name of the bank is the Alamorada Bank in Alamorada in the Florida Keys. Myself and 4 other people formed the bank approximately 4 years ago, and it's worked out real well for us. Here again, we've got a president that's qualified, that does a good job for us, and we've got some good employees working there, and the bank has done real well. As a matter of fact, we started the bank just about the same time the Cayman people organized their first bank. I believe that's called the Cayman National Bank, and I understand they've done real well too. So it's been a good experience for me, and it's really what I want to do. Banking is my first love, and I really enjoy that.
Vic, how big is the bank in Alamorada?
Well, we're at now just a little over $20 million in deposits. We're right at 4 years old, and this year we should make better than $250,000 net profit. And if you were to follow banks, especially during this period of the economy and during the last few years, you will know that's a fairly good performance for a new bank. And we attribute that to the good management and the aggressive policies of the bank.
And some Caymanian ingenuity.
Well, and some American ingenuity also.
Vic, if you ever got the opportunity to come back to the Cayman Islands and share with your fellow Caymanians some of your expertise that you have acquired over the years, would you?
Oh, yes, Loxley. I'd be very willing to, and I'd be happy to. And as a matter of fact, I've thought many times about doing something out there or coming out there and contributing some way to the economy or contributing some knowledge or experience I have to the people, to the young people. you know, I still have a strong feeling for the island. I've come out there once or twice a year, and my basic breeding is Caymanian. A lot of the things I've learned, honesty and dedication and hard work and the things that make a person a good person, I learned those in Cayman as a Caymanian. And I would certainly recommend that and a lot of other things to the young people of Cayman for them to recognize and realize that only hard work, conscientious effort, willingness, and dedication is going to get the job done, and that's what we all have to do.
Vic, you mentioned earlier that it was about 1969 that you got married. Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Yes, Loxley, in June of '69, I got married. Finally found time to get married, and since then, my wife and I have had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. Girls are ages 8 and 4, and the boy is 2. And of course, you know, we live down in the southwest Miami area, and we like it in this area. Of course, we plan to move to Tampa because of the business opportunities there, and I think that perhaps in the long run, it's a better place to raise my family.
Vic, are you involved in any sporting activities or service clubs or anything of the nature around Florida?
Well, I've been involved in a number of service clubs, but currently I'm not too involved. But I do play a lot of tennis. As you know, we have our own tennis court here in the backyard, and I enjoy playing tennis several times a week. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, Mark Penton, who's working for the government in some capacity in Georgetown, has played tennis here a number of times, and we used to play quite a bit of tennis when he lived in Miami. I don't play on any teams right now, but I have played in a number of tournaments, and for my age group, I have to stick to my age group, and I've been able to do fairly well.
Can you let us in on that age group, Vic?
Well, I was born in 1933, so quick computation here tells me I'm about 46 years old, which is old enough.
Vic, with a little secret about your age there behind us, at this point we want to thank you for appearing on Caymanians in Action, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Lox, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and talk to my fellow Caymanians.
We connected up with Victor Ebanks a few days ago. Victor, now in his late 70s, is currently residing in the Tampa Bay area on Davis Island, overlooking the very Tampa Bay waters that he traveled through in 1948 on his voyage away from the Cayman Islands, enjoying life and helping to take care of his grandchildren. You've been listening to Radio Cayman CI Retro, bringing history alive. On this program, we featured short talks with 4 Caymanians about their careers, travels, hobbies, and aspects of their lives. Our thanks to the folks who helped to bring you Radio Cayman CI Retro. A word now from them, and then to Country Classics.
All right, Miss Susan. Oh, Mr. Loxley. Yeah. You were good back then, even better now, sir.
Well, and considering the technology that was available 40 years ago in 1979 that interview was done, and you know, the average airfare between Miami and Cayman was $55, or it might have been $39.
The airfare.
And, you know, you reflect on some of the figures that Vic quoted there. $5 million turnover in 1979. And we got I think a expert here around the table who works for Raymond James. That would be equal to, what? Maybe $200 million in today's figures.
I don't know. I don't have my financial calculator, but it would be much more, that's for sure.
All right, well, I'll give you a quick quote in a second. I was trying to think, because 300 is about 1,500 now, and 75, so back now, yeah, a fair bit. Actually, I put up an inflation calculator, so what we're looking at. Let's do that number, huh?
You see that now? 40 years ago, I'd have to fathom it out in between my ears to figure that out. But Vic, you know, you've led a very interesting life, and here you're back here in Cayman, as we mentioned before, soaking up some of this Cayman kind, and you know, just introducing your family to a little bit deeper appreciation of this Cayman kind, the Cayman culture, your Cayman heritage that you carry around with you, and maybe Vanessa, you could just tell us, in 47 seconds, 87 seconds, what that means to you. And there are a lot of families like this that in the U.S. and other parts, and you recall that 40 years ago, one of the questions that I asked Victor was, would he be willing to come back to Cayman to share his expertise with Cayman? Now, 40 years ago, that 1979. And if you remember what he said, he would be willing to. He would embrace the opportunity. And there were so many Caymanians at that time especially that would have probably gave you the same answer that Vic gave 40 years ago, residing in, I would say, all the port cities, Miami, Port Arthur, that probably would have embraced the opportunity to come back to Cayman and share their expertise. And there was many of them with broad expertise. And was it a mistake that we made at that time, not really embracing this opportunity? And it was not that it was not put on the table, because you heard me ask it 40 years ago in Miami. So you got to figure from, if I was asking the question in that context in Miami, what was going on out here?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Vanessa, tell us a little bit about, just your appreciation for Cayman.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that, like I said, growing up, we came visited, a few times that, I was young. I don't quite remember, but of course, this is, he talks to my kids about it. My kids are always asking him questions, about growing up here and what it was like. So we knew that we all wanted to come, back with him to see, what it was like together. And so, we're here for a week and, enjoying with him, seeing the changes and, him sharing all his, memories with us, that it's definitely very special, sharing it with us and with him. And we do have some other family, his sister's kids. So my first cousins are all coming here also. So it's a big family reunion here in Grand Cayman.
And they're coming in today. Maybe they may be listening on radio right now. You never know.
And I do have a first cousin here, Pam, that I keep close contact with. She's, came to visit us a few times in Tampa and visit my family and my dad. So we keep close contact with her, and she has 2 daughters the same age as our kids' age. So we keep in touch.
Maybe we can find her a writing pad, and she can write in the names of all the other cousins.
Right. Well, yes, exactly.
Something that
everybody's our cousin here.
As you share, Ms. Knox, I was reflecting on the discussion with Mr. Victor, the idea that there is this sort of industriousness in our people. For those who had the opportunity to sort of experience Hurricane Ivan, they understand what our parents and grandparents would talk about in terms of the resilience and the resolve. Now, whether we missed the boat back then, probably would be little debate. The question is, can we harness that enthusiasm, that energy, perhaps the office there, to do something now as we build for the next 40 years, for the next century. Mr. Victor, as we listen to you and we see the humility, the question, as Mr. Doxter was talking to you earlier, there's no question. There's hard work. There's a strong sense of integrity and ethics in who you are and what you do. But there's humility. I know it's striking. Cayman, as you left it, Cayman as you see it now, and the changes on your visits in the ensuing period. What do you say to young lads like me?
Well, I guess you learn all you can. They say that the luck comes to those that are best prepared. So we can work on that. But since we're mentioning all of this, I'd like to just mention this dear friend of mine that's I brought out here back in one of my trips. His name was Dan Curtis. He loved the place, and he continued returning to Cayman, and he was a builder. We did some deals together, and he ended up building some condominiums on the beach, the Plantation Village. Those were his. Dan Curtis, unfortunately, he had a bad accident not too many months ago and passed away. But the first time we were here, we went to see Benson Ebanks, and my cousin, he was just starting that bank, and that's how Dan ended up doing some business with, I think. And anyway, that's about the way it is, I guess. You know, a lot of hard work and learn all you can while you can. You know.
I'd like to ask you there. Now, you mentioned that in your Army training, you went to this school in Colorado.
Right.
How much did that play into your success forward after that? Because it was a training, an Army training leadership school, I think is what you said, right? Because some of the things that you quoted, that you got to make sure that you have, or that you process, I'm sure was drilled into you there in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, it was training for the Korean War, and we were sent to Colorado because of the mountains, and that's what kind of training we had. Mountain training is what they called it, and I had been selected when I was in high school. We had the ROTC program, and I took ROTC, and that helped me a lot when I got in the Army and got into basic training in Fort Jackson. So I was, after some testing and some other things, I was selected to go to Colorado Springs. That's where the Air Force Military Academy is now. And so I learned that I couldn't handle the cold weather. I know that. I camping out in snow, 20 degrees, 10 degrees, whatever. That's tough. And so when we ended up being shipped overseas, we were all very happy about that. We figured we couldn't be any worse than where we were.
That couldn't be any worse mentality. Is something that you have to maintain in a service, because well, it could be worse sometime, but you have to maintain the mentality. It couldn't be any worse, so let's jump into it, right?
Yeah, right. So anyway, I was lucky enough to ended up in Japan. There I was supposed to go to school in special training, but the war ended up, so we didn't have to. I didn't go to school there. I ended up working there. So it worked out real good. And I got some letters of accommodation and some awards for work I did, but all going back to hard work and using your brain. So that was the way it was.
Do you have much recollection of attending Miss Izzy's school?
Which school?
Miss Izzy school.
Yeah, a little bit. I recall mostly the year I spent in Georgetown going to school there with. As I recall, it was a Panton that had a school, only a small number of students, and I enjoyed that.
How did you get from Georgetown to West Bay? Did you have to ride your bicycle? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. We didn't have a car. Nobody had a car. We only had one car on the island. So, and we got. That's how I traveled. And I met a lot of people there from Georgetown, so it's interesting. I learned this not too long ago that these young ladies that I had met up at school, they're down in the States now, but they have family over here. I think the name is the Palmers. He works in the school system or something. That's his mother that I knew, and anyway, that's the way it worked out, and here I am, so still going.
Well, when you come back, Mr. Loxley, let's chat more, because I'm interested in that whole, time of here and there and where we can be. Palmer, wouldn't mind bringing you into the conversation when we come back. Sure. Just a handsome face, man. Mr. Loxley said there's something between those ears. When we come back, we'll hear from Palmer. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States.
Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, seaboard.
Optical Outlook is so wicked.
They're brilliant. Tremendous.
So hot.
They're awesome. Yo, them cool.
They're sweet.
Just ice, mate.
I love them like cooked food.
Head to Optical Outlook and find many designer brands for men and women. Sun safety and eye health care never look so good. They'll be able to help you find the best fit for your face and budget. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000. Kick off your summer at Celebrate Cayman Summer Festival.
Our people, our culture, our history, our heritage, our future.
Enjoy live music performances, local foods, arts and crafts, history and fireworks. Don't miss this enchanting evening, Saturday, June 23rd from 4 p.m. until midnight along the Georgetown Harbor Front. For more information, including vendor and participation opportunities, visit celebratecayman.ky. The Celebrate Cayman Summer Festival, Saturday, June 23rd. Admission is free, so come out and help us to celebrate Cayman.
What do heroes really do? They show you how to tie a tie, change a tire, or how to grill that perfect steak. So do something for that hero in your life. Your dad. Treat him to the sleek and stylish Samsung Galaxy J7 Neo from only $152 at any Flow store. When you activate a Flow postpaid mobile value plan with tons of data, minutes, and text, you get a chance to win the Big Green Egg Grill. Choose Flow Mobile. Coverage, value, speed on Cayman's fastest 4G LTE network. Flow. Visit a Flow store today or online at discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
When it comes to illegal guns in Cayman, you have two choices. Either face 7 to 10 years in prison, or turn in illegal guns in between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. during the RCIPS firearms amnesty in the month of June. You can bring guns to the police station, confidentially give it to a pastor of your choosing, or anonymously send a tip about where a gun is through Crime Stoppers. Visit us at www.rcips.ky to learn more.
This message is brought to you by the Lions Club of Grand Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And whether you are, of this soil and can trace your ancestral links back to 7, 8 generations like some of us, or you've only been here a few months, I hope that you appreciate that there's a wonderful resolve and resilience and sincerity in our people. I'm grateful, Mr. Loxley, honestly, for you digging through the archives, for you to having those incredible connections that you have and putting things on the table so that as a people we start to appreciate. If we don't share our story, it'll pass into history and nobody will know.
Well, over the years we've been more than lax about that very process of really saying who we really are, Caymanians, and what we stand for and what we've accomplished and where we want to go.
Yeah, my nephew tells me, and he wore the uniform, was the few the proud, the Marines. Well, there's only 5 Caymanians left. I just kid. But as we have this conversation, Mr. Victor Ebanks, thank you so much. Palmer, if we could bring you into the conversation a bit, if I always had a football team, I'll put you on the left wing and you can come and we can score goals together, right? But as I sit across the table and look at you, I see something incredible, a wonderful presence and persona, I don't see that in men and men, unfortunately. I don't look that closely. But you're incredible. Give us a perspective as you came here earlier, as where you are, as you hear the history, as you see the future.
Well, first of all, that interview was amazing to hear. I appreciate that. That hearing my dad's voice at 46.
Yeah. Come a little closer.
At 46 is, it almost sounded foreign to me. It was, and hearing the accomplishments that he had at age 46 was, I know them, but to hear them again, it's.
Makes you proud. Makes you realize that that's why you're driven the same way.
Right. I'm 41 years old, and to hear what he accomplished at 46 makes me feel I have a lot to accomplish in 5 years. I don't think it's possible, but the pure ingenuity I think you mentioned before, the entrepreneurship that
a drive
that he has is and has always had is amazing. I've always worked in the corporate world, never had my own business, so the experiences that he had, at this age is amazing.
If I could, with respect to your father, if you'd allow us for a second, right? We sit here as two sons of, in our minds, our fathers are the greatest people ever. That's how sons look at their dads, right? Their mums are even more amazing. But we understand that they come from an era where it's truly of that iron men and wooden ships era. And the resolve, that tenacity, that drive, that dogged determination. We now growing up, we may have some of those same traits and characteristics, ambitions and aspirations, but as great as we may be, we'll never accomplish that because of what they are and what they were. But it gives us hope, right? I want to ask you something, but I just want to be also respectful to the callers joining us. We could go to our phones, put on a headset. So seatbelts are mandatory. No, just kidding. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
All right. Is Mr. Victor there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I am.
Welcome back home.
Thank you.
This is Ivan, better known as Luda. Ivan them days. I was supposed to be you West Bay, so I didn't see you too often, but I remember you playing marbles.
Yeah.
And Lockie can tell you more about me when you get through. You had a brother by the name of Lawrence?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, you see Lawrence when you come out, and Ryan was your brother?
That's right. You're right.
Yeah, well, I was next door neighbor with him. I was living in up at Hennings Lane then. Captain Lorraine, old house. Then after that, I bought a house up there.
Oh, okay.
And Ryan was living next door, and he was a true American.
Yeah.
He used to fly American flag. And the sun, the rain, he never took it down. Sun, rain, and the breeze. When he finished with that, all he had was a stick left there. So I'm welcome you back home, and that program I'm going to have to show us what Caymanians can do or will do. So all we need is a little encouragement from our leaders here, and we can go to the top here too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Do you remember me, Victor?
Yes, my two kids are here. I have three, but one couldn't make it. Yes.
I had two sisters, Olsenina.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted Lou, they needed.
Mm-hmm.
From Mozambique.
I see.
You remember now?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I right. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure whether you know, but I think that you're somewhere in the cousin circle too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay then. I just want to interrupt you. I just thought that I was.
Thanks for sharing, sir. Yeah. No interruption.
I was just so excited to hear that you're back home there. I am still a member of the American Club in Tampa.
Oh, okay.
And I know you used to go there occasional, but I missed you all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Never did catch up with you.
Right.
All right, thanks, Mr. Evans, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Before we move on any further, Palmer was actually star baseball player in college. Palmer, give us a little scenario of that area of your
football
life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny you mentioned marble. I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old playing marbles in our living room, and always telling me that he was a state marble champion growing up. And I was going to ask you, Loxley, if that was true or not, because I wasn't sure. But I had that in my mind. I was going to ask you, today, but I've heard it from 3 or 4 people, so.
Yes. No,
it must be true.
But
yes, that was confirmation bias.
But yes, baseball was always my sport. Growing up, my dad was my coach.
There's another dynamic there, huh?
Yeah.
And of course, you played for Jacksonville University, I believe.
Yeah. Right. Played through high school, 4 years at Jacksonville University. Got drafted after my senior year and played a couple years in the minors with the Anaheim Angels organization.
That's the Los Angeles Angels, Major League Baseball player.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last time I was here, one of my few memories, when I was probably my son's age. So my son now is 7 years old.
Right. Yeah.
We're real big into baseball. We actually have a baseball tournament coming up next Thursday in Palm Beach. So we're looking forward to that. But one of my few memories is playing catch on the beach with my dad at about the same age as my son Evan.
That's right.
And another dynamic that I never really connected up till just sit here listening is Vanessa is a nurse. Now we mentioned the Henning connection, and if you go through all of the Henning cousins out here, you find out that many of them, not only out here but also in the States, are in the medical field. There's nurses, there's speech therapists, there's and I wonder. The thought went through my mind: is there some kind of genetics connected there? Because some of the ancestors were nurses. In fact, one of the ancestors actually should be my granddad. Her name is inscribed on the West Bay Clinic, West Bay Nurses Clinic, as being one of the sort of founders of, I wouldn't say founders, but one of the processors of the medical field here in the West Bay area. So it's family dynamics and, of course, hard work and family connection. And I think that's something that, maybe we've gotten away from here in Cayman. That it's become less
I think,
important to us,
to give the listeners perhaps a perspective as well to share with you guys. The gentleman you met earlier, Ray Banko, as he was coming on, we had a sort of programming meeting for one of our upcoming shows and the like, and through him, naturally through our interest in our history, we appreciate that a lot of what we have is still oral. Some of the recorded stuff, with the greatest respect, is somewhat questionable in terms of, is there another supporting bit of documentation to this recorded thing, whether it's oral, whether it's written otherwise. For a country that has celebrated its quincentennial not that long ago, where is still woefully lacking in our recorded history of the portrayal of us here, us who have traveled to Tampa or to other parts of the world. Increasingly, we're seeing the Caymanians in Europe, in the Nordic countries. It goes back to the trade that we discovered in our history of, in the early days in 1800s, of physical trading with the New England coast. I only say that to share that hopefully people who are listening, and as we look at the paradigm that could unfold in the next 100 years as the generations and the different nationalities intermix, that we look at a sense of cohesion and unity, and whatever that semblance of Caymanian is, that we make it this thing. When we come back from the break, Palm, I certainly want to have more chance to chat with you, Ms. Vanessa, to talk about it, but Mr. Victor to obviously give you the center stage. For those who are listening, join Mr. Loxley and myself. I mean, this is truly an honor. 949-8037 or toll free 1-800-534-8255. Got a WhatsApp if you want to share with us, 925-3261. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
South Coast Bar and Grill up in Breakers, man, that is the place.
for traditional Cayman cuisine. Oh, you will love the taste. At South Coast Bar and Grill, we got conch and lobster and turtle stew. And every Sunday, come out with your family for the barbecue.
Join us for Father's Day lunch and dinner from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. On the menu will be Cayman lobster, stew turtle, fried crab, stew elk, stew conch, grilled grouper, local stew beef, and barbecue chicken.
The talk today is South Coast Bar and Grill.
Cayman National Bank has been proudly serving the Cayman community for over 40 years. With over 7 customer service centers and ATMs located throughout Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, Cayman National makes banking easy. Whether you're out dining, shopping, or playing, we invite you to visit our customer service center, conveniently situated at Camana Bay, which offers full-service banking along with ample parking. I invite you to visit us at Camana Bay, where banking blossoms.
Are you a beneficial owner of an ordinary resident company? If you own 25% or more of the shares, the voting rights, or have control of the board of directors, you are a beneficial owner. This means that by 30th June, government needs you to give them a few details about the ownership of your company. By providing these details, you'll stay on the right side of compliance. Don't worry. Filing with the registry is easy. Just log on to the Cayman Business Portal at cbp.ky and follow the simple steps. Again, visit cbp.ky to file your beneficial ownership information by the 30th of June. For more information, contact cigenreg@gov.ky or help@cbp.ky.
Kia Soul passes it to Kia Sportage. Sportage makes a stylish move over to the sleek Optima. Optima then flicks it across to the 7-seat Sorento. Sorento heads it. Goal! Kia!
It's time to score with the entire 2018 Kia lineup at GT Motors. Get up to $3,000 cash back. The first 50 customers will score a World Cup replica football and mascot. Hurry, it's the best thing that's happened to car buyers all year. The 2018 Kia clearance sale, only at GT Motors on Godfrey Nixon Way. Kia, driving football fever.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Did you know that recycling collection containers are located island-wide in Grand Cayman? The Department of Environmental Health's program is an integral part of DEH's waste management responsibility in the Cayman Islands. Start your recycling program at home today. Put your cardboard items in appropriate DEH recycling containers at all Foster's supermarkets, Kirk Market, or Hurley's Grand Harbor. Help keep Cayman clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, go to www.deh.gov.ky.
Celebrate Cayman. Bring you the Summer Festival. Saturday, June 23rd from 4 p.m. until midnight along the Georgetown Harborfront. Radio Cayman will be bringing you live coverage of the festivities starting at 4 p.m. The Celebrate Cayman Summer Festival. Saturday, June 23rd. Admission is free.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. What a wonderful way to sort of put a capstone on the week. Honored Mr. Loxley Ebanks joins us as we have a chance to. This is not for me nostalgia, not even to reflect and be pensive. Mr. Loxley is about looking forward with a sense of expectation and hope. And in a time when many don't seem to have that same joy. Mr. Ebanks, I think, sir, you remind us of those values. Scripture talks about training up a child in the way he should go. Mr. Loxley, whether we're here or whether we leave and go, further afield.
Well, the picture word picture that we've painted here today of Victor's life, I think that is mirrored in many Caymanians that we never really bring up to the surface. And if you could reflect now what he experienced growing up in West Bay. He was born in 1933. He lived in West Bay until 1947, I guess is it. And what that community was like at that time. And for him to go abroad and jump into the flow of things there and accomplished what he did, and he's still standing at 85. He must have ate a lot of turtle meat and breadfruits when he was growing up in West Bay, because that was what we ate. Right. Fish, turtle meat. You had fish one day for dinner, you had beans the next day, you had salt fish the next day, and then you ate pigeon peas the next day, and maybe get a little turtle meat on Friday and Saturday. And and of course, those days we could go down there, Henning Beach, and throw out our line and catch a big mutton snapper or lagoon snapper or whatever, and cook them up that evening, for supper. But relatively, change is the only thing that I wouldn't say the only thing, but it's one of the things that we can be assured of. And things are going to change no matter what, and it's all comes down to adapting to change and just cutting to the core and get on with the process.
Indeed.
And I think all through the years that was a lot of what the Cayman men possessed. Now, have we lost some of that over the years? I would venture to say we have. But I think there's still a lot there that could be harnessed. We just gotta make sure that we corral it in the right direction and encourage it. Now, I'm sure when Victor was growing up in West Bay, he had no aspirations of being a banker or a financier or a builder.
Right.
I would venture to say that your aspirations were probably going to sea, maybe making the bridge with your high pressure cap and standing at the wheel of a ship.
Right. Yeah. Right? You're right. Mm-hmm.
But looking at how his career deviated and how he was able to really do something with the opportunities that came along his way that he was presented. And I think that's the one thing that I remember, I think, and Mrs. probably told us this, nothing beats a trial but a failure. And if you don't try,
you're destined to fail.
Yes. Yeah. So it's, well, I'd like to put a little sidebar in here. But Vic, growing up out here, I think he thought he was a cowboy. In Cayman, he was probably one of the original West Bay cowboys. My first recollection of Vic was, and it had to be on a Christmas morning, because both our fathers had came home for Christmas, and his family owned a big spread down there in what is now, it was called the Boltons area. What's the area called now?
Town Hall Crescent?
Yeah, Town Hall Crescent, right off of West Bay Road. And his family kept a few cattle, quite a number of families kept a few cattle. And this morning, it was early in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock. His father was coming back from the pasture, going back home, and they had to pass by our home. And, of course, he and my dad was friends, good friends. And my dad hollered at him and say, "Ray, how you doing this morning?" He said, "Oh, I ain't doing too good, Jimmy." The dad said to him, What's the matter?" He said, "Well, them two boys that I got there, I think they rode those two cows, young cows that I had down the grass piece there almost to death." And that was it was a big thing for us if we had access to jump on the back of a calf to try to ride him. But you couldn't stay on very long, and I'm not sure how we didn't really get injured because, if he took off through the grass piece, there was stumps and there was rocks and there was prickles, and we didn't stay on very long because he gave two kicks up in the air and we went hit over heels. But that was my first recollection of, Vic's presence. Of course, he lived in Miami, I lived in Miami, and we... sometime when we were out nightlifing, we would, and I'm not sure how. I think it was probably that we stopped in at a little cafe on one of the docks one night after we decided we were going to head home, and we saw these bunch of barracudas laying on the dock, and the fishermen usually threw away these barracudas, and we saw them, and we said, "What are you going to do with them?" They said, "Well, we're going to dump them, or we're going to..." We said, "Dump them?" They said, "We'll take them." And we got 3 or 4 big barracudas and took it home. Now, of course, they were very aware that barracudas could be poisonous, as were we. But we thought we turned them over to our fathers, and they communicated back and forth with the copper pennies and the ants and all this, and in about a day and a half, they figured out these barracudas is not poison, so we can eat them. And we did that, occasionally. You say, time for us to get another barracuda dinner.
Bringing that old traditional practice, sort of imposing. Mr. Victor, from that notion, as you settled into your new life, going through school in the early days, then college, training with the military, and into your work and your retirement. Share with us, maybe those early days. I know that we're going to go for a break in 2.5 minutes or so, but for those of you...
What was that?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my apologies. I should be a little bit out of there. I was going to ask you to, as we go to a break, maybe a quick word or two with, especially speaking to some of the parents, specifically as they encourage their children about that sacrifice and commitment.
Right.
You want success, you got to work hard, right?
Right. Work hard. They say good things don't come easy, and that's something that's very important. Because going to school, kids going to school these days, making good grades and learning a lot, it's not always easy. So that's being able to being determined, and just hard work, behaving, doing the right things, believing Jesus, and you'll be okay.
Palmer, from that, maybe you talk about being a father, but also being a son, seeing values that you sort of instill in your own.
For sure. I would say, I have some pretty adult conversations with my son. He's 7 years old, and it's usually focused around school or baseball, but it's about hard work. It's about putting in more work than everybody else is willing to, and whether it's math or baseball or reading or whatever it is, if you want to be good at something, you can. You have to be willing to put in that work, that extra time, where everybody else gives up.
Okay. If you'd allow me, and I'll share it now and then ask you if you would, when you come back from the break, the life that we grew up in terms of the exposure to social media and all that stuff, we didn't have that. Our children, that's what they have. How do we as parents in this era, as we parent our children in their face? Back then, you did your chores and you worked hard and you succeeded. Now there are all these distractions. Could we talk a little bit about that as we look at some of the things as we go forward? All right. Now pause and take a break for 2 p.m. headline news. Certainly invite you to stay tuned to Talk Today.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A Cuban man and woman are sentenced each to 12 years in prison for a jewelry heist. The couple appeared before the grand courts this morning for sentencing. They were convicted in the November 2016 theft of Mitzi's fine jewelry. More than $500,000 in jewelry was taken in the robbery. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Italy has urged Malta to take in a migrant rescue ship after earlier threatening to seize the vessel and arrest its crew. Italian authorities had said that 2 ships operated by the German migrant rescue group Mission Lifeline were illegally flying the Dutch flag. One of them, the Lifeline, is carrying 226 migrants rescued from the sea near the Libyan coast. Malta has not yet agreed to open its ports for the ship. The car giant BMW has followed plane maker Airbus in warning of the adverse consequences of Brexit. BMW UK boss Ian Robertson says it needs clarity by the end of the summer. It makes the Mini and Rolls-Royce and employs about 8,000 people in the UK. Earlier, Airbus, which employs 14,000 people in the UK, warned it could leave if the UK exits the single market and customs union with no transition deal. And Nigeria reinvigorated its World Cup campaign and gave a boost to Argentina's with a 2-0 victory over Iceland today. Ahmed Musa had both goals. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-TALK. Toll free with the compliments of flow. Another, 10 minutes or so with our good friends and ably facilitated. And I say again, a special thanks to you, Mr. Loxton Banks, for helping us. Really appreciate Mr. Victor, you coming on board, Palmer. Vanessa, for taking some time out of your vacation and sharing with us. I think we are not just a people of resilience and resolve, but humility and, privacy. We don't really talk much. That's evidenced by where we come when we look at the things. Now, Mr. Loxton, as we reflect on this, I would like to see where we can go from here.
Well, I think where we can go from here, there is the old saying is, if you don't know where you came from, you cannot plot a very good course from where you're going. And we just need to get more of this Cayman kind, you want to call it, the Cayman spirit ingrained in the young folks coming up. Because they are not exposed to enough of the Caymanian ethos. Now, some people out there listening may say, well, what is the Caymanian ethos? Well, I think if you're listening closely today, you probably heard a little bit of how it, you got Victor Ebanks here, 85 years old. He just spelled out quite a bit of it. And there are many more Caymanians who could take it further and spell out more of it in more depth. And these kind of things, I think, are missing in our educational system. There's not enough of it. I'm not saying there's not some of it, but there's not enough of it that's being promoted, processed. And that is, if we are going to maintain any semblance of Caymanians, Cayman Islands, turtle meat and cornbread Caymanians, I think there has to be a giant effort in that process. You know, the process now of history, you know, celebrating our history. What is the catchword? Cayman. The thing that's going on.
Celebrate Cayman.
Celebrate Cayman. You know, there's a little bit of publicity on that, but I don't think that there's enough publicity going on.
Well, there's an event tomorrow
this,
in
yes.
downtown.
Yeah, I was talking to someone this morning who is working right in town. The gentleman is very up to date on what's happening, or thinks he's up to date. And I mentioned to him, I said, I guess you're going to be downtown tomorrow evening. I said, what's happening downtown? And when I explained to him, he says, oh, I never heard a thing about it. So,
well, could he be like Mr. Seifer when you ask him about a piece of cassava and never likes it?
No, he is very up, you know, or he tries to be up to date with what's going on in Cayman. But I don't think we don't publicize these things enough. And just to kind of take that a little further, I called several government offices this morning trying to find out if there is a schedule of tomorrow evening's events.
Yeah.
Now, they've got, I saw listed in the paper, I think something like 4 bands down there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure people would like to know when band A is coming on, or when band B is coming on, or band C is coming on, so that, you know, they could kind of schedule their time around if they wanted to listen to that one or what was going on. But apparently I could not get a hold of a schedule. It says 4 to 12, well, that's a 4 to 11, that's a 7 hour span. Many people don't have a 7-hour span to just come down and walk the streets of Georgetown. I mean, many of them got children, and they like to, you know, that has to. So it's.
I'll
we
give
just
you
got to do a better.
You're right about that, and it's just one example. I'll give you what I have that I received from them. But if I could do it, in interest of that, Palmer, and if Mr. Victor would, but perhaps you could indirectly answer as well, Paul. Raising children in this generation, coming from a stock as how your father sort of raised and instilled those values, and the challenges, the opportunities, the expectations, all these things. Any thoughts for us as parents in this era?
Well, I could probably give some thoughts. Not that I'm an expert in this area. Vanessa probably can as well. My son, I have one son. He's 7 years old. So, I mean, I think probably the biggest difference between, you know, his generation and maybe even my generation or my dad's generation is technology. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, all these kids have, you know, Apple Watches and iPhones and had access to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, right? Which is a distraction, you know, really, you know, from doing what you could be doing to focus on your craft, or whether again it's math or it's some sport. Vanessa can probably talk about that more, but we were just saying at the break how, you know, that's maybe it's more difficult or maybe even easier for kids nowadays. And I think if you kind of twist that, you could say it's easier if you keep your kids focused on, you know, the task at hand, keep them away from, you know, too much time spent on all of these other activities. While other kids are doing that, you know, you're kind of, you know, seizing that opportunity and kind of getting ahead of your competition.
Vanessa?
I agree. It's hard. I mean, my kids are a little older. They're 15 and 12, so, you know, they're definitely on the social media thing, you know, quite often. I think, you know, they're going to do it. It's part of their life now. That's, you know, it's part of how it is now, you know. But I think as a parent, you still have to do your job, you know, in instilling, you know, the morals, the values, the working hard, the, like he said, you know, you you have to be the one to put in that little extra effort that the person next to you isn't willing to do. And all of that is, our responsibility as a parent, to instill in them.
Let me ask, not necessarily to speak from a personal perspective, but generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps when we were children, we played outside, for instance. We could ride our bikes in the neighborhoods. There was a sense of safety and security and community. Parents probably had to, remind you that you need to come back in. Now we're sort of chasing our children outside. Go outside, get some sun, go play.
Yes.
Is that a marked difference whether you live in Cayman or whether you live in some part of the U.S. or elsewhere? Does the same thing happens then and happening now?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's we definitely have the same obstacles, as far as that's concerned. And it just comes down to, maybe your neighborhood where you live, how comfortable you are around your neighbors, with your kid, taking his bike and going down to the neighbor's house. And also as parents, you have to take an active role. You have to get your son off the couch and go for a bike ride. You have to do that stuff. You can't rely on them to prompt you to make these changes.
Right. So you got to try.
I think if I could kick in with
yes,
that,
sir.
He mentioned actually parents' responsibility. When we were growing up in West Bay, we didn't have all of the various things that you got now, but one of our big attractions was on the reef running seas, or grabbing somebody's catboat or canoe and go sailing. And we could, I'm sure your mother probably came down on Henning Beach there with a tamarind switch in her hand saying, you come up now, you got to study in the morning. Yeah. And you jumped on your board and came in and did what you have to do. Did what you have to do by lamplight. You could hardly see what you needed to do.
Right.
But it comes down, I think, to parental responsibility. And that whole aspect of responsibility has to run through parents and the schools. If you don't have that continuity, I think a lot of stuff gets down in the crack. We'll never see the light of it.
Now, if I can, in closing, Mr. Victor, if you would allow us, what advice would you have for us, whether it's the government elected or appointed, or whether it's the business leaders, the civic community, if we want a Cayman to be successful, prosperous, socially, harmonious, economically stable, and the like, what would you say to our people?
Well, if I was in a position to do anything, I would want to do more to encourage Caymanians, those living here, and of course to those living in the United States or any place else, to return to the islands and work and contribute and take advantage of all the opportunities that we have here. One thing I find that it's disheartening. I always ask people where they're from. And, it's just hard to find anybody that's from Cayman. They're all born someplace else, and they lived there a few years. But I'd like to see more Caymanians here, more Caymanians taking care of the opportunity. But the government has to start it. They have to help. And they have to have programs to encourage American-educated people, Caymanians, like my kids or other, to return to the islands. Because and that will, I think that'll help the identity of the character of the islands, and people come here and they say, well, I didn't meet anybody from Cayman. They were all from Jamaica or someplace else. Well, that's not. I don't think that's the kind of reputation we want. We want to think about this place being a really an island place, and we can do it. They can do it. So. But that's would be hard to do. Everybody wants to live in the States or go someplace else. So,
well, I certainly appreciate that, and this comes back to that idea of being willing to serve and to offer up a semblance of sacrificing now for a better tomorrow.
That's right. You're right. Yeah.
It was an honor, sir. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves here. Now, just don't try to keep up with Mr. Loxley. He's young and energetic, so get your naps in, okay? Mr. Lockstead, thank you, sir. Any closing thoughts from you, sir?
Well, no, I think that the word picture that was painted here today on this Talk Today program, sort of hopefully is enlightening or was enlightening or will be enlightening to the Cayman Islands community, and hopefully it will, benefit those that may be in position, as Victor said, to maybe affect some change. There are still many Caymanians living abroad who would embrace the opportunity to come back here and really contribute. And I look at Palmer across the way, and I'm sure resonating between his ears, man. I might be willing to take that opportunity. Yeah. And but there's really not a lot of incentive, because it's an expensive move. Especially if you got a family to move from, but over the years, incentives have been offered to non-Caymanians to come here to work, and I could never fathom, the old people say, or figure out why incentives were not really also offered to Caymanians to come back here to share their expertise.
Mr. Victor?
I think the change in the immigration law, where you don't have to live here a certain period of time in order to claim your citizenship, that's helping. But most people don't realize that you can do that. They all think we have to go out here and live 2-3 years and then hope to get the citizenship. But now it's a lot easier with the change in the law. Yeah. I think it's 3-4 years ago. So yeah.
Well, this is where this discussion invites a level of discourse and dialogue, and hopefully informs us. Palmer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys enjoy yourselves. Mr. Victor, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Just one little footnote before we go now.
Yes, sir.
Victor's middle name is Palmer. And his brother told me this. He told me this was Lawrence, said to me, you know how Victor got the name of Palmer? I said, no. And he said, when Victor, what's your birthday, Victor?
February 28th.
Okay. That dovetails in. He says when Victor was born, I thought he said Daddy came home right before he was born or right after he was born, and he said the captain of the dredge that he was working on up at Hallover Beach in Miami, his name was Palmer. And he said, I want to give Victor the middle name of Palmer.
Huh. Did not know, eh?
And my son's middle name as well.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, the family tradition comes on, huh?
Yeah.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
This is it's amazing, man. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Right. Appreciate it very much.
We'll chat again. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, there'll be some open lines, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Accidents can happen at any time and can leave a strain on you and your family. Be prepared with Workman's Compensation Insurance from Fidelity Insurance. Our brokers can help you meet your government requirements and ensure that you are covered should an accident happen. Don't leave it to chance. Email Fidelity Insurance at insure@fidelitycayman.com for a free quote. Get Workman's Compensation from Fidelity Insurance and get some peace of mind. Fidelity, we're good for you.
For more than 50 years, Paramount Carpet and Tile has been the name that homeowners and contractors have trusted for quality products and flooring expertise. With the latest carpet and tile products available on the market from Mohawk, Shore Carpets, Crossville, Florida Tile, and more, along with the best installation products and tools. To see the full product range with professional advice from the experts, visit our showroom today at 317 North Sound Road or call 949-5000.
We do a whole lot more than just cover your floor. Paramount Carpet.
Optical Outlook is so wicked.
They're brilliant. Tremendous.
So hot.
They're awesome.
Yo, them cool.
They're sweet.
Just ice, mate.
I love them like cooked food.
Head to Optical Outlook and find many designer brands for men and women. Sun safety and eye health care never look so good. They'll be able to help you find the best fit for your face and budget. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
We are now in the hurricane season, and to survive a hurricane, you need to be informed. If you have been informed by official sources that a hurricane is approaching the Cayman Islands, and you live in a low-lying area that is prone to flooding or near the beaches, which may be swept by high tides or storm waves, please seek a safe place and high ground. If the only way for you to get to a safe place is a road that is also likely to be flooded during a storm, please leave home early. Don't run the risk of being stranded. This has been a public service announcement from your community station, Radio Cayman.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, for the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name. Praise time, praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037. Or toll free with the compliments of Flo. 1-800-534-8255. As we get to the end of today's show, which takes us to the end of the week, hey, I invite you to call and share your thoughts. I hope that you were able to spend some time with us, not just listening to what was shared, but to reflecting as a few of you have shared on the WhatsApp. Mr. Loxley Banks allowed us to tap into his incredible network. And we have a family who's visiting the country like many families with Caymanian connections. Certainly appreciate Mr. Victor coming on board and taking a few hours out, him and his son Palmer and Vanessa, as they understand, that Cayman is, as they say, in the DNA. Part of that resolve and resilience means now that we got to pass on that legacy to make sure that the next 500 years is as bright and as beautiful and as bountiful as we can make it. Give us a shout out, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-32621 and share your thoughts. The question to be asked is, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? I'll share with you a WhatsApp. It says that, so my feeling is that the majority of Caymanians feel that it does not make any sense to comment, to grumble or hold up a red flag. So this government just goes ahead and writes on stone tablets and don't care what our people think. Says all of them are like the opposition to the government because they don't come back to our people as they promised to inform them beforehand what would be coming up. So why speak, object, or just roll over and play dead when it has already been written on a stone tablet. Now, a person takes the time to share that thought. We certainly respect the opportunity to share it with you. Is that a sentiment that many of you say, well, it's really a fait accompli? It doesn't make sense to say anything because once the government has decided it's going to embark on a particular process, who is able to change? If you question it, you're ostracized and victimized. If you try to stand up, you're intimidated. And if you don't succeed, well, you're going to be punished. And if you succeed to some extent, it's only a matter of time before those try to find some way to keep you down. That lack of the country and its people working together, hand in hand. Or is it the sentiment of the other one who wrote earlier, saying that Caymanians have to Now understand that there's a critical obligation on the part of Caymanians to make sure that the future is as bright as it can be. Well, I believe in being positive, but certainly we have to accept the reality. The question is, what's your version of what that reality looks like? Is it looking through these rose-colored glasses, or is it one that is so jaded that you really can't see, what obtains? 949-8037, 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flo, 1-800-534-8255. Just share your thoughts with us. I want you to give us an input as we close out, not just today's program, but the program for the week. Tomorrow, as you've heard shared earlier, let me look at the schedule. If you're out and about in downtown, there is the celebration for the 60th anniversary of the Coat of Arms, a summer festival. It's taking place tomorrow from 4 p.m. to midnight, according to the flyer, right in the harbour front. There's obviously no charge to get in. There are going to be some food stalls, billed as arts and crafts and special vendors, a children's activity area from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. There's a national youth culinary competition and exhibit from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Fireworks are set for 8 o'clock. And then there's some live performances. So it promises to be quite an evening of activity. And I hope that as you go up and down, you'll see it, be a part of it, and share with your friends who are visiting, with your family who are here. Now that's from 4 p.m. tomorrow. You can go and spend as much of the rest of the evening as you can or wish to. Admission is indeed free. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. A few of you have sent through some emails that I've looked at. I have to do some review of some of these in order to be able to provide a meaningful answer. So hopefully if I get through with some of the things that you've sent through, we can do just that. Now, someone told me that best way to get something done is to start working at it. I think Mr. Loxley said he reminded Mrs. Sharon that nothing beats a try but a failure. And if you don't try, well, how do you know that you won't succeed? 949-8037, that's the number for us to share. You certainly can join us online. Mr. OC will be with us Monday morning for the record, and you can listen to him there. You can go on YouTube and follow us there, like us there, do what it is you got to do, subscribe. I think Miss Susan shares, and watch the programming there and then. I want you to have a very productive, enjoyable, a very safe, a relaxing weekend as the schools draw to a close, as the graduations unfold, as the children look forward to what the next school year will be like, whether it's their first year at university, whether it's their first year at school, they start their formal education, or whether they're taking some time off to get their bearings. Let's continue to guide them, to nurture them, to not only protect and provide for them, but to ensure that they are given all possible tools to ensure that they attain the most reward, not just financial, but the most reward possible. Make a note of our numbers, 949-8037, or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. I keep promising soon come, I'm told, for us to give you another option to enter the studio to participate in the program, and hopefully that'll be resolved very soon and we can share that with you. We'll see when it's going to come. I'm waiting with bated breath. Now, do us a favor. Let Miss Susan know what your favorite songs are. Call and request. And as we shared to you earlier, that event tomorrow of Celebrate Cayman is 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. right downtown. Is free. As we shared, they have their Facebook page, all the social media stuff is out there. And fireworks is at 8 o'clock, as we referenced to you earlier. From 4 to 8 is the children's activity area. And you can go. So they got different names for the different little sort of street areas, talking about the, coat of arms, or the food stalls, the coat of arms, and all these things. All sorts of interesting things, man. And live performances are billed to be part of the production tomorrow. Good way to get involved, whether you can spend all of it or a part of it. Go out and celebrate this beautiful nation, and if there's something that you think can be better, well, offer up an opportunity to contribute. Enjoy and embrace, make it even better, so that we celebrate this great nation every day and give thanks for what we have. Until Monday, be blessed.